Maybe I did.
Okay, there it is. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm Peter, and I'm in Norfolk, England, and it's rainy. Do you want to go next, Cynthia?
Yes, I'm Cynthia, and I'm in Kankakee, Illinois.
Mary, in the rain in England?
I'm Mary, and I'm actually in sunny Eastbourne on the south coast of England.
Okay. Nikki?
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm in rainy Wimbledon, London, so I'd like to know where the sunny bit starts south of here.
Vic?
Hi, I'm Vic Flagg. I'm in Abbotsford, British Columbia, and fortunate to have a special companion today.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Marian. I'm in Abbotsford, British Columbia too.
My wife.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's sunny.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and it keeps changing.
Okay. Mary?
I'm Mary. I'm in sunny Rosarito Beach, Mexico.
Okay. Right. What I want to introduce today is the concept of feelings of accomplishment, which is perhaps the best of our practicality. I always say about Pellin, it's practical or it's nothing. And in terms of the theme I want to get at later, I guess that practicality is a pretty serious claim on our part. And feelings of accomplishment is one of the simplest tools we've got. One of the stunning parts of David Pellin's originality, and is practical. And in one level, feelings of accomplishment sort of underlines everything, because it's about how we get satisfaction from what we do. So, and I want to combine feelings of accomplishment, times we call it FOAs, with, and as I said, this is some of the most easily accessible, most straightforward, easy to understand parts of this work. I want to combine it with what, to me, and particularly in this time in history, is I think I'd almost call it the most difficult part of the work, and that is attraction to hurt and callousing. And it's difficult, it's dense, it's hard for some people to grab. It can look a bit grim. And I think it is part of this work, which is not true of all of it, not true of feelings of accomplishment, that we need to understand on an intellectual level, not just on a sort of gut feeling level. But we have looked at attraction to hurt and callousing before, so the bit I want to be careful to really define here is feelings of accomplishment. And what feelings of accomplishment are is the satisfactions we get from doing things. Simple, broad brush definition. But where David's originality came in, and where, to me, this is a particularly powerful tool, feelings of accomplishment are as relevant to, 12-year-olds who are being difficult because they can't get out to play, or 6-year-olds who can't get out to play, as they are of people of my age who need energy and feelings of well-being. That from the kids to the elderly, feelings of accomplishment are basic. David called it the most on one level, the most fundamental need we have, and that which keeps us going, literally keeps us alive on a day-to-day basis. The definition is underlying the feeling. The feeling of accomplishment is frequently not the same as the accomplishment itself. And if someone's got a job that they do very well, they may not be getting the same feelings of accomplishment out of that job that they got having done it for 25 years, and they're much better at the job than they were when they started. So in a sense, the accomplishment is greater when someone's 25. The architect who's designed the 50th office building, the doctor who's delivered the 1006 baby, the social worker who's completed the one of many in a series of social work reports. Those people may not get as much feeling of accomplishment 25 years into their career as they got at the beginning, because we become accustomed to feelings of accomplishment. We become conditioned to them. So they don't have that feeling of accomplishment anymore. It's often the case that, and it doesn't mean the accomplishment's not important. It doesn't mean that the architect who's designing those buildings, the doctor who's delivering those babies, the social worker who's providing that life-changing assessment. So some 15-year-old kid goes into the right place rather than the wrong place. It doesn't mean the accomplishment's not there. At times the accomplishment is greater after the 25 years experience, but the feelings of accomplishment might not be the same, and they might even be gone. Okay? Someone who's got, well, I have 4 kids. My children have between 2 and 4 kids. There's a lot of parents right now of children who are doing a terrific job keeping the kids happy, accomplishing something for the children so they understand what they're doing. They're helping them continue with their education. So the accomplishment, that parental accomplishment, is huge. There might be hardly any feelings of accomplishment. If only the kids could go back to work. They're driving me crazy. And certainly, there may not be the feelings of accomplishment that are there, that were there when the children were little. When it's almost hour-to-hour feeling of accomplishment with a baby or with a toddler. We're there all the time. We're getting those feelings of accomplishment. The parent who's doing a good job with 3 bored young teenagers is accomplishing a great deal, but there might not be feelings of accomplishment there. There might be more feelings of accomplishment going out and being a cashier at Kroger's. The accomplishment between those two things, being a good parent to 3 teenage kids and being an efficient cashier at a supermarket, no question which is the most significant contribution and which is the most clear accomplishment, but the feelings of accomplishment might not be there. And it's the feelings of accomplishment that keep us going, keep us alive, keep us healthy on a day-to-day basis. Without feelings of accomplishment, people go sad, bad, and ill. This was actually the point. This particular material, and not today's session, but how feelings of accomplishment are linked to purpose, was the start of David Pellin's thought. He was working as a physiotherapist in what was then called an old age home. And he came up with the observation that the elderly people stop getting feelings of accomplishment and have strokes. That was literally the starting point of this work. And you can learn to recognize when you're getting feelings of accomplishment and when you're not. But the kids leave home, and it's often applied to a woman rather than a man. The kids grow up, leave home, and one of the parents, mum or dad, gets depressed. The depression might be treated, the diagnosis might come up, drugs might be prescribed, or someone might say, well, the kids are leaving home, maybe you ought to have another child. No, the feelings of accomplishment are not in the parenting anymore. And the problem is not someone prone to bipolar that was always underneath and was hidden by the fact this person was a dad and got a lot out of it. The person has had feelings of accomplishment and they're not there anymore. And when we don't, yes.
Well, I was thinking of you saying that, and one thing that I noticed back, years ago when I was a divorce lawyer, is when you had a long-term marriage, like 20, 30 years that divorced, almost always it would happen when the children were grown up or one of them retired, one or both of them retired. And I used to think it was because they were spending more time together, but I wonder if it's because people started to lose their sense of accomplishment and just became crankier and dissatisfied overall.
Yeah. And this is a part of the work which is, very much common sense. A lot of people know they might be in trouble when they retire, okay? And some people don't. And, some people are just blown away. What's happening to me? I was looking forward to retirement. I didn't like my job that much. And now I've got all this freedom. So, I'm mentally ill or something, or I need to lose myself in drugs or booze. And we're coming along and saying, no, your circumstances have changed. Perhaps even though you didn't like your job, going in there brought you feelings of accomplishment. All the things that happen at work. And if the feelings of accomplishment there, it can blow us away. It really can. It can blow us away. And some people almost know it on a common sense level. That's what I say about the work. On one level, what it is codified common sense. There's a lot of common sense in this work. Does anyone else want to say anything about feelings of accomplishment? Mary?
I just wanted to say, when you were saying about they might not like their job very much, but they, you know, things around work, I was thinking about, yeah, you know, they might like the people in the office. They might like having a place away from home. And it just made me think the whole thing about working remotely, there are, or meeting remotely as we're doing now, there are advantages to it, but those kind of other sources of feelings of accomplishment that you perhaps don't know consciously, like, you know, just, hi, how are you doing today? And how was your weekend? And, you know, what they call in America, the water cooler conversations, like that's a source that's going to be lost for a lot of people, and they may not notice it at first.
Yes, Vic.
Right. So again, as always, very, very powerful. So, you know, it's just so interesting to me. I go back to, you know, being in the activator unit and hearing David Pellin teach this in his powerful way, the feeling of accomplishment is the staff of life, right? And all of a sudden there's this vision of a person on a journey with a walking stick. Well, the life is the journey and the feeling of accomplishment is the staff of life. And how powerful this was for me, and the energy and everything about feeling of accomplishment. Now, I just heard you say, Peter, that we need to understand on an intellectual level, not just a gut level. And that really struck me, because I'm inclined to think that I received from David Pellin in the activator on a gut level what feeling of accomplishment was about. But I'm not sure that I hung around long enough or gave it the depth of thought I needed to understand what's just been talked about. And that is that the accomplishment can be there, but the feeling may not be there. And that's really, I think that's really quite significant. A quick example, I spent 10 years as an information technology instructor at a technical institute in another country. And when I look back on that now, I mean, I've never, even though we're having this miracle of computers right now, I've never been so interested in computers that I couldn't teach computers in a passionate way, right? But I've always noticed that one course that I taught was called the Social Implications of Information Technology. It looked at the history and it talked about the social. And I loved teaching that course. But when it came down to teaching operating systems and programming and stuff like that, I didn't get feelings of accomplishment out of it. Now, so one of the things I'm trying to understand here, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that feelings of accomplishment, underlying feelings, that there's a complexity that can be present about feelings of accomplishment. On one level, as you said, it's codified common sense. But on another level, maybe people don't really understand why they're not getting feelings of accomplishment. We've just had a couple of examples in our discussion, right? And I'm thinking that complexity is something that needs sometimes to be understood, because a person can be walking around, you know, feeling depressed when they're looking at their life, and I've done this. Wow, I did this good thing, and people say that's really good what you did, and I'm thinking, yeah, but it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so the complexity is something that I wonder about, and I appreciate what you said there, Peter. And that's my little contribution at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, as you know, as I said right at the beginning, and I want to keep in mind as we keep going with this material, they're simple tools, but they have enormous subtlety and can be applied in a sophisticated way to the most complex of situations. The tools themselves are simple, and that's a different sort of methodology rather than the importance being in the syndrome or the importance being in the words. What we're saying is doing with these tools. That's where I bring in Michelangelo's simple tools and Shakespeare's simple words. It's what we do with them. Yeah, Elizabeth.
Hi. I've been thinking a lot about the importance of feelings of accomplishment in times of crisis. And whenever everything's going wrong in a way that's out of my control, the thing I always turn to is baking.
Yeah, okay.
When 9/11 happened and I was 17 years old, I spent the next year baking cakes because it was, the thing itself was too big to process it or change in any meaningful way, but I could make something exist that hadn't existed. And I went back to that when a protest in my town turned into a riot, and there was kind of an appalling police response, and there was nothing I could concretely do. And it didn't matter that I wasn't changing the thing that was happening. The fact that I was able to make something exist made all the difference to me. So that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah, no, I love the example. I'm a pretty good cook, but I'm just taking up baking, okay, literally, over the last 10 days. And I live alone, but I am going to learn to bake, okay? And it's interesting because what you said is right, because there's something a bit different about it, because you put all these things together and what comes out is different than what you put in. You are creating something new in baking. Anyway, I'm enthusiastic about baking, okay? And it's interesting, you put it in the context of, 9/11, and, I guess I'll say it later, I've been very engaged in what's happening. And yeah, I think it's a sort of response to that. I need something that'll take me out of, something that will take me out of that attraction to hurt. I mean, do you know how many hours, if you watch Joe and Mika, Rachel, Chris, these are American newscasters, okay? You can spend a lot of time watching them. And that's not even putting in Lawrence and Brian, okay? That's 6 hours? Come on, Peter Fleming. Dangerous. And that sort of attraction to hurt.
Absolutely couldn't.
That's attraction to hurt. To mine, Does anyone else want to come in with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I taught preschool when I was in college, and I would make Play-Doh, cake, and bread with my preschoolers. And it's the same ingredients. It's just different quantities.
I love that.
And I show them, this is what you can do with flour and salt and water.
Right.
You can make bread, you can make cake, or you can make Play-Doh.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And I felt great accomplishment from that. And I thought that was interesting for them to know that it's amazing what you can do with the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that's feelings of accomplishment. We put a twist onto something, and we bring in the feelings of accomplishment. Do you want to say anything, Victoria? There, but not. Yeah.
Well, yes, I I can relate to the accomplishment, and whatever other people think about you've accomplished it is a totally different from our own perception of having accomplished it. And I think this is where I try to use the loving kindness to myself, because it must be my inner critic or inner judge that tells me, no, you haven't accomplished it, or just use another tool of saying what is there that is not allowing me to see it.
Yeah.
And why is it when I have to, well, something, I think critical things are easier to to be acknowledged rather than feeling of accomplishment. But I think I'm doing well with it right now, after so many years, after I've accomplished the Pellin training course. And yeah, I think that's about it. But this gap between accomplishment, the way others see it, it's also like a bit like a persona gap. Like you perceive it one way, the others the other way. I bring trust into myself, whichever way. So
that's sort of important, because it relates to what we're doing now in terms of, this series is on connecting the different connections between the tools. Because feelings of accomplishment is that which keeps us alive. It keeps us healthy and feeds us energy. Feelings of accomplishment is almost a part of things that is, we can do more. When we're doing a lot, it's easier to take something else on than when we're doing nothing. That's true for me. I can be quite efficient when I'm doing a whole bunch. But if I've got one or two things, I could mess it up. But one of the things we look at in this work is, and what you were saying, Victoria, touched on the other side of that. What are the ways we sabotage our feelings of accomplishment? Because the feelings of accomplishment are there for the taking, and we sabotage them. And one of the ways we do that is with pendulum swings, just touching on that other part of the work. And that's, perhaps I'll say it here, because I want to make sure I say it, okay? My feelings of accomplishment sort of over the last 2 days, 3 days, it came off, I do Facebook, I do post on Facebook. But Mary suggested and they were going into the history of this organization, because I wanted to establish a lineage. But Mary said, in terms of what's happening right now, that I put something on Facebook about what's happening right now. And the first one went up a couple of days ago, another one going up today and tomorrow. And it's a real new project for me, okay? So I just want to say it now rather than at the end or forget to say it. Initially, I'm titling it The Pellin Tools, Political Efficiency in the Time of George Floyd. And it is directly applying these tools to how making a contribution to what is happening. And I came up with a phrase which I want to stick with, is political efficiency. How can we make the movement efficient so we reach the goals and get the results? And yeah, attraction to hurt is relevant in that. I mean, people get, elected to office and get a bit careless with money or sex, and all of a sudden their career's in great trouble. And as Shelley knows, and, I mean, that's a great lady. And that happens, that's attraction to hurt. I've been elected to Congress. I can do anything I want. No, if you make a mistake, you're in the public domain, and the attraction to hurt in some of those people. And as we put the connections in and the work develops over time, it's the part of what we call the performance life force. In the performance life force, I'm the king of the castle. And no, you're someone who the press is following to such a degree that you make one step and they'll pounce on you, which is not quite the same. And so the Pellin tools, political efficiency in the time of George Floyd, I want that to be about the Pellin tools more than I want it to be about politics or my politics. But, this is a little arrogant of me, perhaps very arrogant of me, but Barack and I agree that this time is different. There is something different about this. I think that is true. I think there's something different about this, about what's happening in America. And I'm an optimist, I'm a deep student of the civil rights movement. But at the same time, I feel, even if we just look at attraction to hurt and feelings of accomplishment, the feelings of accomplishment, in my Australian background, what we would call a demo, a demonstration, the feeling of accomplishment there can be huge. To bring in the pendulum, it's a huge high. Okay, where are the feelings of accomplishment in 10 days' time when someone comes down from that high, which was the first of the posts I put up about political efficiency. How do you keep going when you hit that low? And this can take away. I think we've got a real contribution to make there. The feelings of accomplishment for me, it's different. I've had my political belief forever, and I've been doing the work forever. I've never had an opportunity to bring them together the way I have now. But I think there's something different that's happening, and that, so I've got an opportunity, and that's where attraction to hurt, like the other tools, are simple and yet in their own way really subtle, okay? Because this is a good side of attraction to hurt. People are attracted to the hurt of what happened to not just the men who've been killed by police, but the black women who've been killed by police, which, as Mary pointed out to me earlier today, we run the risk of them not getting the same press. And that's something I'll be addressing directly. But we're sort of attracted to the hurt the way we'd be attracted to the hurt of a car accident. We're drawn to it. Or a child crying in a particular way. There's a particular cry. Ooh, that's different. We've got to be there. That's not the same. So there's a really positive side to attraction to hurt as well as the negative side.
I think one difference is I don't think we get into trouble from the positive side of attraction to hurt. It's like necessary for survival and nourishment, but the negative side of attraction to hurt is like a web that can draw you in and you don't notice it, and then suddenly, well, let's talk for myself, then I can be overwhelmed by it. And it has that complexity we talked about when we taught it the first time of, I want to be a person who cares about the suffering of the world, and then that strange guilt that comes from, but actually I'm doing really well in my life and in this social isolation time where I'm not that isolated because I'm living with two people. So so then it sets up that, oh, I'm not feeling the attraction to hurt for all the terrible things that are happening. Am I a callous person? I mean, it's very complex.
Yeah,
getting
and
the
that
balance right.
It's complex getting the balance right. But just to sort of, as we keep going with this process, doing, I guess, a sort of rolling revision, that's where in Pellin work, everything comes down to evaluation in terms of hurt and purpose. That's where we sort those things out. Cynthia.
Actually, I was thinking about this in terms of even putting in callousing in that, and I think it's relevant to what's happened and what's happening on the side of the police officers. I've been a special ed teacher. I've been in social work. I've been a lawyer in family law, which is a very people oriented. And one of the things that I've seen is that particularly the people who are the most optimistic going in, who are the most gung-ho, who are the most, I'm getting a lot of field accomplishments, are the ones who end up becoming the most callous as time goes on, as they face, as you're facing obstacles, as you try to, and I think that one of the reasons I failed as a teacher, I only lasted a year, and I eventually couldn't do it anymore, is that I don't think I could develop the calluses for some of the things I ended up seeing. But the people who did develop calluses, it's I've seen it. I mean, you see it. You see these people, and you can even see this in what the police officers. There's this meanness that starts to come about, and it's not necessarily at the level of these police officers, but you see these people who are like, oh yeah, who are in these helping professions who start becoming cruel, actually.
That's what we call callousing. And I guess one of the things Vic and I share is, we can't give this man too much praise. Okay, I feel that. But David's concept of callousing, if you go into it, is just superb. It is so subtle. It handles so many complex situations. Because on the one hand, we need the calluses or we don't make it, okay? The example, and bear with me, those of you who've heard me tell the story more than once. But when I first went to work in a prison, and I didn't have a social work background, I had a background in, which is emerging now, in political science and economics. And it was a very good prison in British Columbia. Very, very modern, very new, literally. And I met these people and I thought, wow, they're great, And then we go down and have coffee and they're sitting around telling these sort of stories about the prisoners, these sort of, dark humor stories. And I was just shocked. 6 months later, I'm in that coffee place telling those sort of stories. In some jobs, cops, ER, in a hospital, a heavy mental health hospital, the army, you develop some calluses or you don't make it. An inner city school, a really tough inner city school, you develop some calluses or you don't make it. And yet, there's a tipping point. So you've got enough calluses to keep doing it. And in terms of the life forces, you're keeping your caring life force a bit healthy, okay? But you lose that and you tip over, and that which enabled you to keep doing the job, to use your words, Cynthia, you become cruel, or you become indifferent, or you become cynical. You know, you'll have an array of figures or opinions or buddies. Well, they're not going to make it anyway. Come on, they're not going to make it. I mean, you get into a certain callous around that. And of course, then what happens, the way these tools fit together, those people lose their feelings of accomplishment, okay? Unless they're only feeling, unless they can find a way that the feeling of accomplishment is in the power or the promotion or the salary. Because one of the things I did want to say today, and it's not particularly apropos anything, you know, in England we're a bit better at being down on ourselves and being, you know, blowing our own trumpets, okay, put it that way. This is a country where police do not carry guns, and they don't want to carry guns. And when, say, a side comes in who wants to push that, or there's some sort of crime thing, and, you know, Mary, me, Nikki, who's been a cop, you know, absolutely critical of the British police, absolutely critical of Scotland Yard, you know, systemic racism in Scotland Yard. You know, we're not slow to say all this, but it is a country where police do not carry guns. You couldn't get the shootings you have in America here because they don't have the guns. And in the main, chiefs of police want it to stay that way. I mean, I just want to put it out as a point of pride in this particular time. Yeah. So.
How do they defend themselves, Peter? I mean, because in America, if you bring a knife or a billy club to a gunfight, you get killed.
Nikki, you want to say anything?
About cops. Sorry.
About.
Hello?
Yeah. The specific question was, how do British police defend themselves because they don't have guns?
Right. Okay, so many years ago in the mid-'80s, I was in the Metropolitan Police for 3.5 years, which involved, I mean, it's a bit different now because that involved wearing a skirt and tights and carrying a handbag, which seemed a bit bizarre even then. But, well, the police don't need guns because the people haven't got guns. Why would anybody have guns? So, and there was once some young man with an air rifle shooting out of his bedroom window, and so there are a few, must be a lot more now, police officers who are trained in using a pistol, I guess that's called, and there's one in the safe in the station, and so he goes and books out his gun and gets strapped into his life vest thing. He was very shaky and quaky, and I was putting the thing on him. I remember that. But that was the only encounter I had with a gun. I think it must be really different now. There must be lots more of them trained in handguns.
Yeah, I would say, you know, just being the relentless teacher, that it's a example of attraction to hurt and callousing. That, you know, people are attracted to the hurt of firearms. It's an attraction to hurt, the same as, you know, whiskey or cocaine. Attraction to hurt stuff, you can sort of see it. And I think there's a callousing, and I think you could take these tools and really analyze how, you know, police forces and the army of the Western world, you know, how they've sort of calloused to all this equipment, you know, attraction to hurt, more and more equipment. And I've always thought there was David's point about objective awareness, which Vic's talked about. You know, there's, and you know, I'm not American, but you know, I'm a huge fan. I love America. But you know, and you know, our heroes, our veterans, you know, all the way the military is held in esteem in America. But then, you know, these are guys and women now, both men and women, who've got all this equipment, and you know, they're going up against the opposition. Has, you know, is wearing sneakers and t-shirts and windbreakers. It's sort of an odd callousing around all this equipment. Just to think, I think it would be a particular application of these tools. There's an odd callousing around carrying this military, you know, gun. What's the initials? It's got a name, hasn't it?
AK-47, AK-15.
Yeah, AK-47. You know, and I think there's a particular callous around that. And then it becomes ordinary. Well, of course I carried that when if someone looked at it from a different perspective, it could be just absurd. You know, we often cannot see our own calluses, or in a sense, we can never see our own calluses. It's sort of unconscious. And often nations can't see their own calluses. I know India a bit, I've traveled there, but, you know, India coming out and, you know, demonstrating, you know, against racial injustice at this time when they've had 3,000 years of a caste system that in some ways is hardly questioned. But the outside world can see the Indian caste system. But from inside India, it's very hard. And the outside world can certainly see how America is awash with guns, the way America can't see it. That's one of the ways calluses works, that we almost can't see our own. It's a bit like the persona gap. Yeah, Vic.
Right. Well, again and again and again, all of this stuff is so touching so deeply. I'm going to share a couple of things really quickly, and I hope that one of them is a bit of humor, and I hope that it's okay. I grew up in North Vancouver, and we used to go as a child fishing down to the harbor, right? And as a little kid, we'd pull in a ling cod or a rock cod, and the family would give me the whacker, because you had to hit the fish on the head, right, with the whacker. Well, bang, you get that fish. Okay, that's done, right? And then as I grew a little bit older, I'd look at this whacker. This is pretty neat, you know, what is this? And my parents say, well, this is your granddad's billy club. And my granddad, of course, came from London, England. And what I was holding in my hand was a policeman's billy club. cherry, and you've got that on your head, you really knew it, right? And so fast forward, 65 years. I mean, I'm talking about memories there when I was 6 years old with the whacker, and eventually I learned, that where it came from, and there was a lot of callousness in there. My grandfather came out of the trenches of the First World War, and etc. I won't say much more about that. But now, fast forward to 65 years or whatever, and 2 or 3 nights ago, and the person that I'm trying to assist, I had to call the police, and I had the police come down, and I got to be careful how I say this. Anyhow, I was so impressed with the female police officer that spoke to me, because I felt right away she was right in front of me, and I just felt so impressed right away with I could feel the training, and I could feel this perception of her looking at me. I was, I explained who I was and what this was all about, and I just felt that the control that she had in the situation was amazing. And so I think of this, and I think that it's important what you said, Peter, is that there has to be some callousness in some professions. I guess even a parent has to have some callousness sometimes with a child, right? And so there has to be some callousness at times. And you talked about a tipping point. I think that's really, really interesting. Wouldn't it be wonderful if in the institutions, whether it be law enforcement and many others, we could have instruction of the nature that we're talking about right now, and that you've carried on from David Pellin, so that people can understand, be more conscious, objectively aware of the necessary role of callousness, and when it's becoming overwhelming to us, and we're losing our life force of caring, and that's a really, really significant thing. So
I think it's I think it is a real. I think that's a real, police women, but I think it's a real example of callousing. One of the things David says is callousing is inevitable. And if you're around a lot of hurt, we callous if we hurt someone, we callous if someone hurts us, we callous if we hurt ourselves, but we also callous if we are around a lot more hurt than we have ourselves, okay? So, people who work in prisons aren't criminals. But you've got to callous if you're going to work in a prison. Now, but if you're making a nourishing contribution, and this is going into more I guess when we got the online Pellin training course set up, this is some of the details of it. If we are taking calluses away from someone else by making a nourishing contribution to them, that means we lose some of our own calluses, okay? And you can see that. And I think, if we just stick with I don't have one with me, but, if we just stick with the interlocking circles, the yellow cardboard circle, right? I mean, currently, 2 cities, Atlanta, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. I sort of know them both. The scenes of almost murder capitals of the world at one point, a lot of crime. And, both those cities have young Black women mayors at the moment. And if you get into these tools, you can almost see how they hold it. She even did it, okay? I didn't have a phone connection to her. But, the mayor of Washington, D.C. painted the street yellow, literally. So the person who occupies the White House has to look out on this yellow painted street. And when I said, I phoned her up and said, yellow is our colour for the caring life force. Will you please paint the street yellow? No, I didn't quite have that clout. But, you know, both those mayors in the midst of all this, and of course, Atlanta was, you know, the scene of the birth of the civil rights movement, hometown of Dr. King. You know, Georgia had murders, lynchings, all over the place. But in terms of the callousing that could happen there, if you had a totally male political establishment and police force with, you know, 2,562 years of tradition of males running police forces, I don't think you could have the sensitivity in terms of we're cops, but we've got to handle it differently now. And I think it's almost visible. You can almost sort of be an excuse for me to watch more news programs, which I don't quite need. You can almost see the caring life force coming in, and almost a push that the calluses won't develop. You know, a little 4-year-old girl on the shoulders of her dad, and they're both black, and they're demonstrating, and you can almost feel, you know, we're going to take some of the harshness away.
Well, Peter, and also those amazing photographs of the police officers that kneel with the protesters.
Yeah.
It's very moving, and you
Yeah,
really
you can
feel the
see,
caring in it.
Yeah, and you can see, and the caring life force is you come first, not me. The performance life force is I come first. So if I'm a policeman with all my armaments, I come first. I can push you around. Yeah, Vic.
So I don't want to distract, but I hope this question is meaningful. It just occurred to me, I mean, is it possible that the word callous can be misleading in this sense? Callousness obviously, I think, means insensitivity. And yet when we talk about the person using the callousness appropriately, because that seems to be inferred in everything we've said, at certain times you need to be callous, even a parent needs to be. Maybe there should be a different word used, because at that time you're making you know, a decision or an application, say of force or whatever. You know, your child wants to cross the street because they want to play with it, and you say no, you can't, and pat on the bum because there's a car coming. You know, that's the simplest thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm wondering if the word callous in that sense could be misleading, because callous actually means insensitivity. And yet when that thing that we're talking about, as we've talked about in this session here, is used appropriately, it seems it's used with awareness. Like I kind of felt that with that female officer when she was talking with me. She was right in my face, and I felt this training. I felt it from her, but I also felt a kind of caring. It's hard for me to describe it, you know, very professional. So I wonder if callous, I don't want to change the terms, but I'm just curious about that.
Well, I think we've got to be careful with, you know, David used some words in a very different way. And my experience is stick with his words, but find and some, as you know, I haven't, and find a way to make them clear. And even addressing that, because yes, Cynthia.
Well, I was thinking about what Victor said in that, and I was thinking about my experience both when I was a 20-year-old teacher in alternate behavior disorder school actually here, but this was 25 years ago, and this is a very poor gang-infested area. And I mean, there were a lot of other things going on, but basically what happened is I came in and a few months, and I got depressed. I didn't recognize I was depressed, but, you know, now looking back, I know I was badly depressed, and it took me a long time to get over. But in terms of the whole thing with the callousing, you know, I had and I think this is of all the things that did me in the most. I had children, 12-year-olds, sometimes younger, who said, I don't think I'm going to live. I probably am not going to live to past 20. And then you think, oh gosh. And they said, well, my cousin died, somebody died, and in terms of, and I couldn't, or, I mean, just hearing those stories, or, a 16-year-old who's a very bright, talented young man who was in gangs, and, you talk about, you talk about it, and you talk to him and talk, well, we could tell your parents, what do you mean? This is my parents' gang, this is the family business. It wasn't, and I couldn't, I mean, just the pain and a lot of it was because of it. I mean, these were Black children, and that's why it's so exciting that everything here was peaceful, and they were oppressed. I mean, the problems were just they were overwhelming to me. I mean, I didn't think I was sheltered, I didn't have money. I was raised with all sorts of things, but, what they saw was a young white woman who, and I was, I mean, I'd never encountered anything like that. But I think in terms of the words being the same, yeah, I mean, there's a certain level, but then there was my co-teacher who she'd been doing this for 20 years, and she was a big tough woman, in that one, and but there was a certain sense, and I think I don't know if I mean, at the time I thought she went over the line, but I think with callousing, I think it is the same thing. The good calluses, and then when they start to become insensitive, you get to the point where you can't feel it at all. And I think that I think it's not necessarily whether it's good callousing or bad, but the degree, and it felt the same. I mean, and then later when I was a lawyer, what did me in was when I was a child's representative, and I saw just the things parents did to their children that I didn't see when I was only representing grown-ups, because the people who wanted to be really mean didn't hire me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not tough enough. But I guess sorry if I went on, but that.
Yeah, no, I think the applications of these tools in child protection, sorry, the applications of these tools in child protection are really, really important. And I would sort of stay with the word callousing, and I would also stay with the word insensitive, and that's where we can come in. And the evaluation is in terms of hurt and purpose, okay? Now, is me being insensitive? So someone's working as a doctor in a very tough inner city. Hospital. They have to develop some insensitivity to be a good doctor. They can't take it all in. They can't take in what Saturday night in ER means, okay? They've just got to say, okay, I'm going to do that bit, I'm going to do that bit, I'm going to do that bit. And even to use that word, they have to be insensitive. I remember I got my youngest son, 3 of my children were born in Italy. And I was there when my youngest son was born, small village in Italy. And we had a midwife and a doctor, and they were sitting on the balcony having a cigarette. And my friend said to me, Peter, this is one time I'm really pleased you don't understand Italian, because the doctor and the midwife were sitting on the balcony having their cigarette, telling their stories, okay? Remember when this terrible thing happened? Do you remember when that terrible thing happened? So, within that sort of work, and good cops will have that, good cops will have stories to tell that would probably totally shock the outside world. But, that's the way they're good cops, because they're working with yeah, I want to try and hold on to that, they're working with that delicate balance of calluses. And I think in our work, that's where feedback comes in. That's where feedback and passive listening comes in.
Just very, very quickly, just in listening to Cynthia and in Peter, and with reference to what I said about, is this the right word? And now I think I've just, almost an epiphany, but I think it is the right word now that I think of it, because you would never want to get to the point where you overlook the seriousness of what is actually happening. So even if you're using the callousness in a positive way, in a positive application, you would want to know this has the potential of you becoming callous and generating more hurt.
Yeah.
And so when you said, Peter, that you'd prefer to keep the word but develop the understanding around it, I think that's exactly correct, and I appreciate your answers. That enlightened me. Thank you.
Shelley, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think it's all very interesting, and I've been reading a lot of books in our field, because one of the things of being home more is I have time, like, to take this course and time to read books. So I've been ordering all kinds of books. I'm interested in somatic body work. So I got this book, and I'm going to try and get the title right. I should have looked it up, but it's called I think In My Grandmother's Hands, and it's written about the physiological effects of racism. It's written from a man who's African American, and he's talking about how whether you're white or you're black, it's in our gut, it's in our body, these feelings. And his grandmother had very, very, very calloused hands because she was picking cotton, and it ruined, it made the pads grow very thick. There was something about that, right? He was held by his grandmother. So I just had that. It's a really interesting book. I just started it, but trying to get it, that it's something deeper than just cognition. Yeah. Really, really deep, and how to work on it on that deep body level for all of us.
So. I just wondered about this, because London, is the or one of the two theatre capitals of the world. We'll say it's the first against New York. So, the whole media industry, acting, all of that, big here. And I've always thought, I've at times used people, and I just wondered about your reflection. People need particular calluses to go into that world. It's tough. And I just wonder what that like for you, having been in that tough world of movies or.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I've done theater and film. Yeah. So I think it's very you have to be very sensitive for yourself to play the part, right? But for me, it's like that thing of putting up with other people's judgment, because your fellow actors are judging you, the director. I mean, I don't mind, but, the audience. There's so many layers of places you are being talked about or talked to, and critiqued. So yeah, it is tough, I guess. I mean, there's so much reaction too. Yeah. You have to have all the talent in the world. What?
There's so much.
What?
I couldn't quite hear it.
Oh, there's so much rejection too. Just
rejection.
auditions.
Yeah. That was the bit. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So right, you can have all the talent. You can study. You can do this and that, and it's not about how talented you are. It's because somebody knows somebody, or she has, bigger boobs, or whatever it is, right? And then you're rejected again. And you do that over and over and over. Yeah. So it is very hard.
Yeah, and when you think of people who come through and great actors or actresses, when you think about Judi Dench, who doesn't come across as a super tough lady, But even in her career, which was very successful, there still would have been rejections and rejections. And yeah, it's interesting.
Peter,
Yeah.
I believe like I'm like a turtle underneath, really sensitive and soft. And when I first student teach, I failed twice because I was too sensitive. I didn't have enough callousing to control the classroom. They walked all over me. And so I taught, I got a job as a caregiver with emotionally disturbed adolescents in a gay group home. And that toughened me up. I got a chair thrown at me. And I learned that I had to learn with what verbal judo was and think on my feet and learn to anticipate body language, you know, the shallow breathing, the rapid eye movements, that they were upset, that something bad was going to happen, that a chair would probably be coming my way, that I needed to distract them and like reward them right away. Oh, good. You didn't react to so-and-so. You have computer time, you know, and react, reward, distract. And that calloused me. And I was able to teach for 5 years after that. I still have teaching dreams.
Okay, yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, because, you know, one, to sort of expand the concept of callousing, one part of it is that, you know, we got the callus or we got the very hard hands, but we've got an infection underneath that. And that is often that which you know, has to be, that infection is almost got to be removed by therapy. Or maybe someone gets very lucky, you know, the totally right job or the totally right relationship. But outside of rather extreme luck, you know, there can be an affection under the callus. And I guess to expand that a bit and you know, how somehow or other something like that happens to probably isolated, in my opinion, overly equipped police force. You know, there'll be forces in that happen. Well, I guess we get it clear, don't we? No, the callus hides the infection of injustice, and that's going to blow everything up one way or another. Yeah,
Peter,
Mary.
I was just thinking something that earlier we talked about a little bit about the connection between feelings of accomplishment when attraction to hurt was overwhelming. And I was just wondering if there's a way feelings of accomplishment relate to maybe being able to soften calluses, or I'm just like throwing it open to you, like how do feelings of accomplishment and calluses relate?
Well, I think they relate that I'd almost say on one level, feelings of accomplishment is necessary. I was going to say the only thing, but I'll say a necessary ingredient if our calluses aren't going to skyrocket from the tipping point where they're destructive rather than useful. Because I do think there's a tipping point there, because to use that example, I think the good cops are as hard as nails, you know, but they stay on that balance. And I imagine the brilliant ones absolutely stay on that balance. So I think that one way that feelings of accomplishment are important. But
the other one is you don't get the feelings of accomplishment if you don't develop useful calluses, right? Because if you don't develop any calluses, like what Cynthia was talking about, then you can't do the job. So I think we already covered that aspect, but I was interested in this other side that you've just touched on now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that works is, yeah, and it's a little bit sort of conventional wisdom in the public domain at the moment. You know, who is going to, in a few weeks or a few months or even some years, who's going to end up feeling good about this? You know, the cops who joined the march or the cops who pushed the old guy to the ground? And I mean, there we've got lots of evidence. I mean, the empty, tragic lives, I think, of the murderers who got, who weren't found guilty in the civil rights movement. And then, that odd thing where 30 years later, there's another trial and they're found guilty. And, the empty life of not really being able to get feelings of accomplishment from being hateful. Take to drink, take to whatever. But, well, David said feelings of, David said calluses are on your face. He said you can read someone who's got a lot of calluses because it goes to their face. And I think you can see that. I mean, just being a bit rhetorical. The faces of the good cops and the faces of the bad cops. I think you can see it. And just hold on a moment. And I just want to sort of remember that part of him. He was adamant about that. He said, the calluses will go to your face and other people will see it. And other people will see your calluses. And if they've got less calluses than you, they will say, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm stepping back. I got a good memory, Vic. Yeah. He was a good teacher. And that's quite intriguing, this idea of it's on your face.
Yeah, I was a very hurt person when I went into the activity, and I can remember David saying almost word for word what Peter would say. He would talk about hurt, and Pellin would say, in fact, I think you remember him saying something to the effect that, I think I remember him saying to something to the effect that if you go into a room, you didn't know anybody, you didn't know the people, but you would sense that a person had a lot of hurt, and you would back away. And even if you didn't physically back away, but inside you're backing away. I don't want that, right? And so it's kind of interesting because, and again, I'll be very quick. When I had this female police officer the other day, I was pretty close, and she was. It was just really amazing to me because her face was in my face, and the laughable part about this, I had a mask on because I'm over 71 and I have a heart problem, and but I could feel two things. I could feel that what we're calling callousness is definitely there. This female police officer could give you what for really quick if she needed to and wanted to. I felt that, but I also could feel the caring light force. I'm quite confident of that. So the other thing I would quickly say in response, I was almost going to say when Peter said, and I remember David saying this, that the calluses go to your face. And then when Peter said that, I was thinking, yeah, but wait a minute, what about the con artist kind of person? What about the people that are, don't have those obvious callousnesses on their face, because they do, and yet they can look at the psychopaths, right? And yet when I think about that and look at my long years, there are times when I've interacted with people and they don't have what you'd call the obvious callousnesses, but in their face, my intuition would tell me something. I would feel something, right? And I would have this cautionary sort of sense. I'm not saying that intuition is always in top order, but I think it's there. And so I think that David and we talked, I think I mentioned the last session about David. Did I say that in the session, or did I say that in an email that a person came into the unit wanting to help, and David said, no, I won't help this person, And I mean, and he got ripped by all the other ringleaders. This is your whole purpose. This is your ultimate purpose. What are you doing? Turning this guy out, right? And within 24, 48 hours, the guy had been arrested for some horrible crime. And so David had this, again, awareness it can be a real nuance to the callousness, I think. So again, fantastic information. Thank you.
Yeah. Mary Stapleton, do you want to come in?
I'm listening closely, Peter. I had my own problems with feelings of accomplishment when I retired and couldn't find any at all. And I think 5 years later, probably I'm still struggling. I find things to do that give me occasional good feelings, but nothing with the same strength and immediacy as I had in a job. So, and I'm still trying to think how to get that back.
Yeah. I am in the process of developing the Pellin workbook on substance abuse. I'll reach out to you to get some help on it, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
And as Mary and Nikki know, I need the help. Yeah. So we're just about there. I would like to ask you to follow this set of, this is just transparency, this is just me, set of posts I'm putting up, because I think I'm going to be quite ambitious about that, because I think, and the first one I put up, I think was just a straight, practical bit of how, you know, the enthusiasm and the, to use our technical words, the compulsive high of a successful political demonstration is, for many people, is going to be followed by a quite devastating low, in which they can turn to cynicism, or, you know, no one's listening to us anyway. Nothing has changed over the last 50 years. And that's a pendulum swing. No, that's a pendulum swing. So I think it's a place where we've got a lot to offer, and I want to expand on it. Okay, we'll finish there. I'll do, yeah, I'm Peter, I'm in Norfolk, and yeah, it was a bit of a risk to put the political efficiency concept out today. So I feel I'm pleased with that. Nikki, do you want to go next?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Nikki, still in Wimbledon. Weather's brightening up a little bit. Very funny, strange, not funny, strange little blast down way back memory lane when I used to walk about in a funny outfit. That's how I used to think of it at the time. And I hated every minute of it. Just totally horrible, racist, sexist, horrible environment to work in. And didn't have enough calluses to survive it. Had far too much hurt. Other things about, but and yet in a funny way, you know, terribly naive, and other weird things like walking about in a just by wearing that uniform, you feel completely bulletproof. And so I'd walk around in the middle of the night, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. If it was a nice weather, I'd be having a great time, and feeling completely safe. And I missed that for years and years and years, because then after that I was just a woman walking about in the night, and you don't feel safe at all. And I used to hear the odd clip-cloppy of high-heeled young girls coming out of Cinderella's nightclub, and I'd think, I'd think like a 45-year-old man, like, oh my God, those stupid girls, don't they understand how in danger they are? And then I think, wait a minute, I'm 25, walking around on my own in lipstick. Yeah, but I could call for urgent assistance at any minute. Anyhow, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Victoria?
I'm Victoria. I'm still in Paris, France. And I just love those meetings. I have to keep for most of the time my video off because the connection is very stable, not because I don't want to be part of the visual part of the group. And lots of hugs and support to everybody in the US from Paris, France, where we are calm at the moment.
Okay. Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy and I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm saddened that our police use guns with rubber bullets as well as regular bullets on innocent protesters.
Thanks. Mary? Yeah,
Which one?
Mary on the coast of England.
Sorry. Oh, in England. Do you mean England?
I'm Mary and I'm in East Sussex on the south coast of England.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia?
I'm Cynthia. I'm in Kankakee, Illinois, and I'm grateful that I was able to, because I was thinking about, am I going through a lot of attraction to hurt because I keep getting pulled in, but I'm also just realizing talking how many memory links all of this is bringing up. So thank you.
Shelley?
Hi, I am Shelley in Los Angeles, California, and I don't really have a lot to say because there's so much thought. But I guess I wish that I could go to the marches. Today some of my friends and their grown daughters are going, but I'm not feeling like it's like this ambivalence about going.
Yeah.
And my family I think would be very upset if I did because of the coronavirus potential. Yeah. So it's this weird thing. So it's like, do I need that feeling of accomplishment? And then how do I substitute it? How do I do something else?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Maria, do you want to say something?
Oh, I'm Maria from Canada. Thank you for the opportunity to join with you.
Okay. Thank you. Vic?
Yeah, and I'm Vic in Abbotsford, and again, deeply touched by all that has been said. I'm really grateful for the sharing, and the connection is quite important to me at this time of my life in particular. So thank you all, and I look forward to coming back.
Okay. Mary?
I am Mary, currently of Rosarito Beach, Mexico. And if I can just share this with Shelley, I don't even think about demonstrations because of my back issues. But I have found in reading around a group that's based in Los Angeles called White People for the number Black Lives. And it's about white people confronting their own racialism, not saying to Black people, you teach us. It's about taking responsibility. So if you look up White People for Black Lives, they have orientations and other things, emails, etc.
Okay.
Oh, I did just have one practical thing. I just found out by asking that Stacey's email address I was using for the Pellin Lift newsletter is one that doesn't work. So is there anybody that hasn't seen or found in their spam or received the Pellin newsletter? Could you let me know, so in case it's the wrong email or something like that? Everyone, I think everyone here has been getting them apart from Stacey, but it looked like Stacey was getting them because the program said it had been delivered, but she wasn't. Okay, everyone else seems to be okay.
I get
so
it.
that's good.
Well, thank
Just
you
one
all.
thing I wanted to say, I put in the chat the name of the book Shelley mentioned, in case somebody is
did.
interested.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Victoria.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming.
Oh, say the I did put it in the email, but say what we're doing Wednesday, Peter.
What we're doing Wednesday, we're going to stay with feelings of accomplishment.
What was it again?
Feelings of accomplishment and the life forces. Okay?
Yeah.
So we'll use our circles. Okay,
Thank you,
well,
everyone.
yeah, thank you all very much. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you all.